Jeff Marion here. We've all seen what happened last week in Minnesota and Virginia. And we wonder, how did we get here? How does this happen? And can I get a ticket for having an air freshener hanging off my windshield? So this video is going to answer that question, and it's part of a series of videos that discuss personal injury law and other hot topics in the legal system that you may have seen in the news. I've been practicing law for 25 years. I spent 4 years as a prosecutor in the busiest traffic court in New York State. I've handled all kinds of cases and thousands of traffic tickets a year. So I can explain to you from start to finish how we got here. If you'd like more information about this topic or other legal issues, you can click on the logo in the corner and subscribe to my channel. I guess the first question is, can you really be stopped for having an air freshener on your rearview mirror? It depends on the state, and it depends, I guess, on the interpretation of the law. If you look at Minnesota, for example, they specifically have a statute that says that there cannot be anything affixed to your windshield or hanging off of your windshield other than the rearview mirror, and if you have one of those suction cup holders for your GPS device, and that has to be put down low. So there actually is a statute. New York State, where I practice, has a different statute, and that statute in the vehicle and traffic law is called obstructed view. What they wrote in the statute is really about having the vehicle overloaded so that you can't see out of the windows, or having it overloaded in terms of passengers, especially specifically front seat passengers. Do police in New York State use that statute to write a ticket for a hanging tag or an air freshener hanging off of a rear view mirror? They do, but it's not necessarily in the particular statute. And it doesn't, unlike Minnesota, specifically talk about what can and cannot be on the windshield. Now, of course, in my time as a prosecutor, I saw tons of tickets for obstructed view, but I had a different perspective on it. I usually assume that the officer actually stopped the motorist for a speeding violation, a passed red light, going through a stop sign, something more garden variety. In speaking with the motorist, decided to give that motorist a break and said, well, since I've got it stopped, I'll write this ticket for obstructed view, and the prosecutor will dismiss it. And I can tell you that as far as obstructed view tickets went, 10 times out of 10, I dismissed those particular charges. What about license plate violations? In New York State, we don't have expiry tags on the license plates. It's really all part of the registration. But that falls under what's known as a fix-it ticket. And the same thing also applies to these things, objects hanging off of the rearview mirror. If you come in with proof that you fixed the problem, whether it's a muffler, it's a bald tire, it's a burned out tail light, that can be a receipt from Pep Boys, that can be a repair order. You can take a picture of the license plates in the car. I've even, if it's slow enough, gone out to the parking lot with the motorist, looked at the car, and seen that the particular item is fixed, and then walked back in and dismissed the charge. Again, 10 times out of 10, I'm looking to dismiss. You did the work, you fixed the problem, you spent the money. There's really no point in having you spend additional money on fines and surcharges. Plus, these are non-moving violations. So they're probably the lowest ranked of traffic offenses. What about warrants on unpaid fines? From my experience with judges, not only in the courtroom in which I prosecuted, but also overall, of all the judges I have practiced in front of, I would argue that 99 out of 100 and probably 100 out of 100 are simply more concerned about why you didn't come in and ask for an extension in the first place. Do you work? Is there an issue that we should know about? Were you laid off due to COVID? Did something happen? How can we get you back on track to paying the fine? There's really no impetus to put a person who owes a few $100s into jail and calling it even. They would really prefer that the person work, continue his or her life, and simply just pay the fines at some point. And judges, as far as my experience goes, have been lenient in that regard in terms of working with somebody to make sure that the fines get paid. One other factor that we need to look at is the notion that this is a large part of the budget and there's this whole motivation by a police force to write as many tickets as possible. I actually went and looked at the budget for Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, and fines and forfeitures are 1% of their revenue. So bearing in mind that most towns, most municipalities are stretched in terms of their budgets and trying to get enough state aid and tax money in and fee money and things of that nature to try to balance the budget, that 1% is not an insignificant number, but it is not the driving source of revenue for any town in any state in this union. So let's take a 30,000-foot view here. So we have non-moving violations that are ambiguous in some states, maybe specific in others. Easily fixable violations that a prosecutor is generally going to look to dismiss the charge once the problem remedied, as opposed to any kind of fine or jail time, which doesn't really exist in this scenario. You have a court system that would be more concerned about getting the payment and making sure that the motorist or whomever has an ability to pay, and giving them extra time if necessary if they come to court and ask for it, and isn't looking to just simply lock the person up and throw away the key. We also have a small, insignificant part of that town's or any town's given revenue stream is fines and forfeitures. So, armed with this information, I'll let you make the conclusion as to what was really necessary and what alternatives there were to what we had happen, and whether things needed to escalate in the manner that they did. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments below in this video. You can also email me at the address that's at the bottom of the screen. You can contact me at my Facebook page, facebook.com/JeffMarionLaw. You can check back every Sunday because I have new videos up on all kinds of topics involving personal injury law and other hot topics in the legal community. So, like my video, subscribe to my channel, check out my Facebook page, check out my website at www.jeffmarionlaw.com, and we'll see you soon.